Hello everyone and welcome to another very nice game from the Tata Steel India Rapid Edition. This is the one that you guys requested a lot, even though MVL already won the tournament with a full round to spare. This is the game you guys wanted me to show. It is a game from round 2, Pentala Harikrishna versus Gukesh. Let's dive straight into it, and very much I'm interested. How did you do with the thumbnail challenge? Let me know in the comment section. Let's check it out. So Harikrishna has the white pieces and he opens with D4. We have knight f6, knight to f3, we have pawn to d5, and pawn to e3. We have pawn to c6. With e3, Harikrishna went for the Colle system, and now usually bishop to d3 is played here. This is the most common move, and sometimes you will play c4. Some other moves, okay, maybe knight b to d2, not very often you will see, but here we have pawn to h3. There are like 5 games in the database with this setup, and Matthias Bluebaum is pretty much the only grandmaster who tried it against other grandmasters, although he lost all the games. He lost one to Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, and he lost one to Samuel Shankland. But okay, it's definitely an attempt. We have h3, and now bishop to f5 by Gukesh, and now, okay, bishop to d3 is the move that was played in those games, but knight to h4 is what Harikrishna goes for here. And it is now, as of move 5 already, that we have a completely new game. So bishop goes back to d7, and now bishop to d3. So what Harikrishna got out of this is that he doesn't have to trade off his light square bishop, and his light square bishop is a bit better than Gukesh's light square bishop on d7. So pawn to c5, Gukesh continues striking against Harikrishna's center, c3, and now knight to c6. We have knight back to f3, queen to c7, and now knight b to d2. We have pawn to e5, striking in the center, as white always should, and now pawn to e4. And when you see something like this is extremely difficult to calculate, especially for rapid games. So chances are when you see a structure like this, players will just trade everything off, especially if this pawn comes to c4, then they will just trade off everything. No one is wasting their time calculating this. So c captures on d4. C captures first knight to b4. Okay, you can attack the bishop before you trade off the rest of the pawns, as the bishop is not defended. You have to react to that. Bishop to b1, and now d captures on e4. We have knight captures on e5, and now rook to c8. And here comes knight captures on d7, already with a very interesting idea that what happens if queen captures on c1? Well, it's just not very good. Because if queen captures on c1 now, first knight captures on f6 with check, and if g captures, you will play bishop captures on e4. Now the rook attacks the queen as well, so you have to trade, captures, and okay, you get this position where white is up a pawn with a better pawn structure, and okay, you can grab the pawn back, but after castles, white will still always be better. So after knight captures on d7, Gukesh got a very different idea. He played king captures on d7, and now comes knight captures on e4. So what was Gukesh's idea? Now queen captures on c1, and now it's very much different. We have knight to c5 with check. Now you cannot just capture, because if bishop captures, then you lose the queen. So you have to capture with the rook. So what was the idea behind knight to c5? Well, bishop to f5 with check now opens up a discovery towards the black queen. So rook captures on f5, and now rook captures on c1. And now once all is said and done, you can see that Gukesh gave up his queen, but he also got 3 pieces for the queen. He has 2 knights and the bishop for the queen, which is usually more than enough, but here his king is still in the center of the board without any pawns to defend the king. So is this worth it? Well, let's see how the game continues. We have bishop to d6, finishing development, and now castles. Of course, you want to play queen b3, attack the knight, put pressure on the b7 pawn, but you don't want to allow rook to e8 while your king is still on e1. So that's why castles, and now rook all the way to b8. We have rook to e1, and now knight to c6. We have rook to c3, going for a nice rook lift, and now rook to d5. Gukesh just puts pressure on this d4 pawn, and he is ready to capture. We have rook to f3. Harikrishna has to find any sort of counterplay, and while you could capture right away, first rook to d8, and now he wants to bring his king over to the queen side for extra safety. For example, if queen to b3, then you're just going to play king to c8, defend the b7 pawn, move the bishop, and then you start capturing on d4, and you will have a great game. But after rook to d8, Pentala Harikrishna did not find any good continuations, and he decided to sacrifice a little bit of material here. He played rook captures on f6, G captures, and now queen to f3, attacking the rook and the pawn on f6 here. So king to c7. Now, of course, the rook cannot be captured. If you capture the rook, then bishop to h2 check will win back the white queen. So after king to c7, we have queen captures on f6, and now rook to d7. We have pawn to g3 now, so you don't run into any sort of weird checks. Knight captures on d4, there was no way of preventing this, and king to g2. We have knight to c6, Gukesh wants to solidify, and now rook to e2. So was the exchange sacrifice all that worth it? Very, very hard to say, but it doesn't look like it. I mean, if anything, the black king will be perfectly defended. You gave Gukesh the semi-open g file to be used for attack. Not a lot to be done about this. So bishop to e5, attacking the queen. We have queen to h6, and now pawn to f5, not even allowing the h7 pawn to be captured. Rook to c2, and now pawn to f4. Trying to open up the position. Now, of course, if g captures, then you get the g file to attack the white king. So g4 by Harikrishna, and king to b8 now. We have pawn to f3. Now comes pawn to a6, and now this basically becomes a game of how Gukesh will convert this into a full point. We have pawn to h4, Harikrishna still hoping to create a pass pawn on the king side there, king to a7. We have pawn to g5, knight to b4, going after the a2 pawn. You could play a3, but not right now, as your rook on c2 is hanging. So rook to e2, and now knight captures on a2. We have queen to e6, and now bishop to c7. Now the bishop will come to b6, not just to control this diagonal, but also to prevent any and all checks that the white queen could give to the black king. So queen to f6, we have knight to b4, and king to h3. We have knight to c6. Now comes pawn to b4, but of course nothing to be done about that. Knight to e5. We have queen captures on f4. You don't have to capture, but you don't have a better move here. Harikrishna is basically without moves, so he plays queen captures on f4, and now just knight to g6. Attacks the queen. We have queen e3 check, and now bishop to b6. Blocks check. Queen to c1, and now rook to d1, trying to get behind the white king. We have queen to c2, and rook to h1 with check. We have rook to h2, and now rook to g1, cutting off the white king there in the corner. And the threat here, of course, well, there are many, but rook to d4 followed by rook captures and h4 checkmate is just one of them. So you have to stop at rook to d2 is played, and now knight to f4 with check. Also, a nice idea is just rook to f7 followed by rook to f4, and rook to h4 checkmate. It doesn't seem like there's all that much you can do about this, but Gukesh doesn't want to risk anything, try some unnecessary calculation when there's a very, very simple knight to f4 check, king to h2, and rook captures on d2 check. Queen captures on d2, and rook to g2 check. Eliminates the white queen and rook of the board, and of course now you know your position is completely winning. Requires zero calculation, something maybe a Capablanca would do. So queen captures, knight captures, king captures, and now bishop to e3. This is basically the final move of the line you had to calculate, because without this move it's still tricky. You are probably winning, but you have to be very sure about it, because if white can get those pawns up the board, it's going to be it's still a race. So you have to guard the d4 square, either via bishop to c7 or bishop to e3. Gukesh went for bishop to e3, and now king to g3, pawn to b6, preparing pawn to a5 to create a pass pawn, pawn to f4, and now pawn to a5. Captures, and he was in this position on move 52 that Harikrishna Pentala resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. For those of you, in the previous video, I ended the game a bit too quickly, and some of you said that, well, okay, maybe I should have pointed out how exactly black wins this. So, okay, I'm going to show you now. Some of you maybe know how to win this. Some of you might be interested, but okay, white will start pushing f5. Of course, white will also try to create a pass pawn here, more than one. a4, you're going to play f6, and after a3, f7. Of course, now we're going to block the queening of the pawn with bishop to c5. So here comes h5, but after a2 and g6, you can capture. You don't have to capture, doesn't really matter. You will play a1 queen, and that's it. The queen covers g7, the bishop covers f8. There's no way to advance the pawns, and you're just gonna play something like this, gobble up the pawns, and then, sorry about that, gobble up the pawns, and then checkmate the white king. So that's basically how you do it. So yeah, very nicely done by Gukesh. If you have any other games that you would like to see from this event, do use hashtag suggestion, and I will very, very gladly go over them, especially by MVL, who won the tournament. It's like you guys never, suggest any games by MVL. Yeah, once again, really hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank obviousmimic.com, Gerard Prince and Bonbon, Sol and Baby Boo, guernseychessfestival.org.gg, and Amanda Oliver, the most beautiful girl in the world, for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of everything else that's happening in the chess world, and of course, checking up on your suggestions. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.